Hello, students. Once more, here's Doctor D.A with this week's philosophy appetizer. As I record this, it's November of 2020, and this is a year that has perhaps been as challenging as any other year in history because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But along that phenomenon, there has been something else here in the United States, and that is a raised awareness of certain aspects of our history and our society where social injustice and lack of equality are very, very evident. And it has caused many people to rise up in protests and in calling out the system for all of these shortcomings. I think I've shared with you this before. I've been very fortunate, very blessed in that because of the work that I did for many years, I was involved in friendships with people from all around the world, and I visited many different places. Honestly, not as a tourist, but as a friend of people who lived there. And I am blessed because I count as some of my best friends people from, South Africa, Egypt, uh, England, India, Australia, Hong Kong, as well as, of course, many other countries in, you know, Central and South America, as well as here in the United States. And all I can say is that being exposed to people from different cultural backgrounds has enriched my life personally, but it has also opened my eyes and my mind to the fact that, you know, being different is part of what life is all about. Having differences among ourselves is actually a great treasure. If only we can capture and mine the value of that treasure. I don't know about you. I don't know what your circle relationships is like, but let me tell you, I totally enjoy this blessing of having friends from all around the world because my mind is so open to so many different cultural backgrounds and tendencies. And so I believe that when we bring it home to our lives, one of the things that happens is that uh, we sometimes try to kind of put on others a layer of perspective that is totally based on our own experiences and our own perspectives. And so, you know, it's okay to say, I don't understand this person's view or this person's perspective of what they're saying that they feel. But don't make that something that's such a huge deal in the sense that, it's probably because, yes, I don't understand it. And it's okay to admit that. But it's another thing to essentially put walls between us and other people simply because we don't understand where they're coming from. Uh, I want to share with you some reading here this year as part of all the different transformations in our society. The church that I am a part of decided to embark on a journey of exploration of cultural differences, just to make us more aware of these things. And uh, we read this book called A Crown That Will Last by Michael Burns. It's a very fun book because he is actually married to a woman who is from a totally different racial and cultural background. And a lot of the stories that he shares are kind of funny episodes in his dealings with her family and her dealings with his family and his background. But although a lot of it is kind of like, on the funny side, there was one chapter here that really kind of stuck with me. And he says the following, and I read, it says, we typically have higher expectations for others than for ourselves. How so? We often judge others by their actions, while we judge ourselves by our intentions. So, when someone else lets us down, we don't consider what they meant or intended or any other extenuating circumstances. They blew it and it affected us, and that is all we need to know. It's a very interesting experience because I think it resonates with a lot of what has happened in our society this year. You know, we do tend to hold other people to a higher account than we do ourselves because we judge their actions, whereas we base our self judgment or our intentions. In other words, it's easy for me to say, well, I didn't mean for it to come across that way, or I didn't intend to hurt your feelings. I really didn't mean that. But it's not the same to think that perhaps the other person also had a different intention than what we perceive. We just think, oh, you said this, or you did that, or they did that, or they stood for this, or they didn't back me up. I don't know. It's a complicated issue, and I don't mean to minimize it to something that can be solved in a conversation. But what I'd like for you to do is to take this, and as you think about the words that I just said, I'd like for you to think about yourself. Is that the case with you? Can you see yourself perhaps sometimes having a higher expectation of others than you do of yourself in some areas? Do you see yourself sometimes basing your perspective of people on what they did and what they said and not being willing to consider what did they mean? What was really going on in their lives that made it come across to me like they were doing or saying something that I took personally? Like I said, it's not a simple thing, but I'd like to encourage you to continue thinking about these things. And whatever changes we see in our society over the coming months or perhaps years, I hope that you'll be willing to open your mind to the reality that other people live and embrace it. Not just consider the differences, but embrace the fact that in those differences, we can both, learn from each other. That's all I had to say for now. Thank you so much. And it's my hope that over the coming months and years, you will continue to grow as you go on your journey. Thank you so much.